Hello everybody, this is Stacy. I'm going to show you really quick how to do a test cut on your ScanNCut. I will be doing it on the SDX model, and I will explain how it works on the CM model as well. It is a bit different just because the SDX model has the auto blade, so honestly I don't use the test cut nearly as often as I did with the CM model, because the CM model you have to actually adjust your blade. Let me see if I've got my old blade. I do. So the CM model actually has and I had such an issue with mine not staying where I put it, so I actually put some tape on there to hold it in place. But you need to adjust this depending on what your cardstock weight is. So, if you're using 110 pound versus 80 versus 60, it's going to be different. And I had a guide that I used to use with my CM model so that I would know, kind of a quick chart that I put together when I would cut something and it worked well, then I would make a note and say, 80 pound cardstock, Nina Solar White is whatever number on my blade. Now you can use the old blade in the SDX model. It is smart enough so that it will realize that when you put a different blade in here, being that one, it will know that, oh, we're doing manual blade. And so it'll make sure that your settings, you need to make sure, it'll notify you that your settings need to be set up a different way. So I'm going to load my mat. And I'm just going to do a quick little square pattern out of the machine. So we're just going to go and do a pattern and a symbol pattern, and we're going to just pick the first one, which is a square. Now my paper is only about 1 3/4 wide, so we're just going to do a 1-inch square. So I'm going to bring this down to 1 inches or so. That's fine. We're going to hit set. Now I'm going to scan my mat because I do have the piece of paper on my mat, and I need to put my little square, my cut, on my mat, or on that paper. So let's do the scan the mat button. I'm going to hit start. It's going to scan the entire mat. Okay, so there's my piece of paper. It's actually a black piece of paper, but I already have lightened my background, so if it was normal, which is what I typically have it on, it would show a black piece of paper. However, then I wouldn't be able to see this on the black piece of paper, so I'm going to put it back to the lighter background, so now I can see the two. So now I'm going to move my square onto my paper, and that's the great thing about the ScanNCut, is that you can pretty much use whatever size paper you have on hand. Okay, so now I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to hit cut because that's what I want to do with this. And then I'm going to hit test. So with either model, it's going to put a little object onto your mat somewhere. Now, it seems to put it wherever it was last, wherever you left it last. So I want to make sure that it's on my paper. So I'm going to move it ever so slightly to the bottom. I gotta grab it. Okay, won't grab. There we go. And I'm gonna put it on the bottom of the paper. And I usually put it in this spot because once it does the test cut, it'll return the mat to the initial position, and it's the easiest to access would be the bottom of your paper. So I wouldn't recommend putting it like top right or anything. I would put it on the bottom, as close to the bottom of your paper as you can. All right, so now the one thing with the SDX model is, like I said, it has the auto blade. So right now I could just do start and I could test cut. Now the auto blade will go and just look at the mat versus the paper, and it'll determine how deep it has to go. With the manual blade on the CM models, you need to adjust your cut depth. So whatever, 1 through 12, I think it is, or 0 through 12. So adjust that based on what you think it's going to be, and then do your test cut. Now, like I said, you can use the old blades, the CM blades, in the SDX model. And if you do, then what you're going to do is you're going to come in here and you can change the cut pressure here. So if for some reason it's not working exactly the way you want it to, you can then just change it here. You can adjust that. I'm not using the manual blade right now, so it's not going to matter what that's set at. If for some reason I want to adjust anything else on mine, though, my auto blade, I can change the cut pressure. I do believe I have the cut pressure this high because the only time I actually use the test cut is when I'm doing stencils. And because stencil material is very, it's Mylar, so it can be a little bit difficult to cut all the way through, and I want to ensure that it does and that it's not going to cut, into my mat too much. So that's usually the only reason I will do a test cut on the SDX model, is because of the stencil material. So I'm going to go ahead and hit start, and I'll show you the process then on what a test cut does. Okay, I'm going to hit start. So what it's going to do is it's going to, again, this is the auto blade, so it's checking my mat, it's going to check the paper, it's checking right where it's going to be cutting. And then it cut it and it spit it back out. So like I said, it returns it to the initial position, and then the screen says now test completed. To cut this pattern, press the start key. To test again, press test again key. So there's a test again and there's a start. And so what I want you to do is to check to see if it did good. And if it did do good, then you can go ahead and hit start, and it's going to continue cutting out everything. If for some reason my test cut didn't go all the way through, or it's not quite the way I want it to be, then I would say test again, and it's going to take me back to the initial screen, and I can make some adjustments. So I can increase the cut pressure if it's the SDX model. If it's the CM model, then I would just adjust the blade, the manual blade, to a higher number. So let's check this. So I can use the little spatula that comes with the machine. And the thing is, you don't want to eject the mat. You don't want to unload the mat or anything, because this has already been scanned. Stuff will move if you try and do that, and you don't want to do that. So you're going to be trying to get to the test cut without moving your paper, removing it from the mat, etc. And that's another reason why I suggest doing it at the bottom, because you're going to be lifting it up to get it off, and you want to just mess with it as little as possible. So we're going to go ahead and just use this. So as you can see, when I lifted this up, it's perfect. It released it perfectly. So I'm going to go ahead and say that was a perfect cut. And this is what the screen says. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to hit start, and I'm going to go ahead and continue with cutting the pattern. And so we take that off, and it's perfect. Let me know if you have any questions. Please give me a thumbs up if you like the video, and be sure that you are subscribed and you select the bell and all notifications so that you will be notified when I go live or if I post a video. Thank you so much, guys. Bye-bye.